got launched as MapGive at South by Southwest in March of this year. Basically, we have a task manager. You can take any part of the OpenStreetMap database, run through the task manager. You can divide it up into squares of arbitrary size. You can figure out what these sizes are, and people can check them out. And that means we can put the imagery in the background, and people can check out a square of the imagery and begin to trace it. With that, this is an example of one of the refugee camps, or this is a refugee camp in Ethiopia, Mogadishu. Excuse me, this is Kenya. In 48 hours, they traced not only this camp, but 10 others when we released the imagery. It's relatively high resolution. We're getting individual structures, individual roads. You can't see it on the screen this small, but you can also see the individual footpaths to get water, which is one of the areas where we see the most attacks. That got turned into a really great capacity for Yolanda, where we released the satellite imagery, and this is Taquilon. You can see individual structures and at what level of damage they were. Turns out doing this remotely is not anywhere near as good as doing it remotely plus on the ground. We're only about 50% right by having a crowd look at it from the sky. We actually need the ground capacity. And this is something that you all can provide through some of the tools that you have, should you have a disaster. This is the stuff that people need in order to understand where to send aid. I'm going to show you quickly. This is turned into a MapGive official state development program, and now it's actually policy, but it took a lot of campaigning to get it there. One of the areas where we also made a dent was looking at how do we crowdsource imagery from the Civil Air Patrol. You all have volunteer pilots who can fly technically as Air Force auxiliary during emergencies. The governor has the power to request that aid, and that can be turned into air wings going and flying over an entire area, taking usually these are 20 megapixel shots with a camera. Turned out taking pictures during if you remember the tornadoes from 2011 in Alabama, FEMA didn't know there were 300 touchdown points until day 5 of the response. Civil Air Patrol had imaged all 300 of them in the first 24 hours. And they were sitting on a compact, on a CD on the Emergency Operations Center's desk, and no one had opened it. The new geospatial officer for FEMA heard about this and said, this is never happening again. And we looked at how we would begin to pull this together into a process where we could crowdsource the analysis of tens of thousands of photos should a major event happen. We did this in August of 2012. I went to Burning Man, and I was sitting on the playa when Isaac hit Texas, Louisiana, and we activated the process. But the basics of this were, we took a Civil Air Patrol aircraft, a crew that was very experienced, and flew them with a camera. We brought the analysts from FEMA and NGA and from actually OpenStreetMap, put them in the same room, and they kept flying iterative sorties until they got a process that worked. We wrote it up, we put it out, it got used for Isaac. Basically, the process then turned into, like, okay, we've collected all these photographs, now what? How many of you remember Hot or Not? Same code, different purpose. This is called MapMill. MapMill got built by the Public Laboratory for Technology and Science, Public Lab, for building out a tool for quickly slicing out what, like in a balloon imagery, you get a lot of obliques where you just get the horizon, you're not getting what you're looking at, so you just weed them out. We turned it into not damaged, lightly damaged, heavily damaged. And we could run photographs behind it, and people could quickly classify them. If we had enough people classify one particular photo, at least having like around 30 or so, we can get statistically significant samples and begin to think that this photo is probably in one category or another, one bit or another. This got used for Sandy, and we ended up building the map that quickly say, where is it bad? And that's the #1 question that FEMA usually asks is, where is it bad and where do I need to send stuff and how much stuff, how much people? This gives a very quick way of going over a large geographic area, and within usually hours of the Civil Air Patrol flying it, putting it onto a website. In this case, we were using an Amazon instance, uploaded all the photographs, ran it. We had about 6,000 people participate, and on average they were rating number has been revised. It's about 6,000 people. And we had the rate, most of the photographs were done over 96 times. So 35,000 photographs, every one of them on average was rated about 96 times, which gave us more than statistically a sample. It turned out to be pretty good. FEMA ended up starting using it to look at where it was bad. And the other thing that they used is they created an app where you can look up your address, and because we had set these up by grid squares, you could pull up your address and look at all of the pictures from your neighborhood, from your shelter or wherever you were, and quickly assess the status of your house, which gave people a peace of mind that, okay, things are not as bad as I thought, or it reaffirmed what they knew. But this is sort of the process that we've gone through, and just a few things that you might want to think about in terms of capacity. Questions or?
How many people use that map mill thing to any of the last couple of? Anyone recall using it?
We talked about using it for the mayoral race.
Talk about disasters.
So many.
Thanks for speaking up, Phil.
So how difficult was it to train surveyors since they had to identify building construction, materials, and all that good stuff kind of here?
It varies. We've done it now in Kathmandu, Haiti, Dakar, all across Indonesia. There are some teams where they're higher capacity than others. Some of them we're teaching basically how to use computer and now how to use OpenStreetMap. Some of them are bringing their own smartphones that they have already loaded the apps on. So just different level capacities. Training them for doing building surveys. That is usually a challenge, particularly getting them started. The process of being able to read the building is not easy. What we often will tailor the survey to where the capacity is. And we may not ask them for doing building condition, but can you tell us how many stories it is, what it's made out of, and can you confirm the polygon that you see on the map? That's a good basic start. And now if you want to start going into what architectural style is it, what vintage is it, things, oftentimes what we find is just having them take a picture and then bring it back. Someone can do that work with them and help train them up on okay, this one is Nawari style, this is a cinder block,